What's up, y'all? Welcome back Pitchside with Parker to another day of the Euro 2021 previews. That anticipation is building. I'm getting really excited, and I hope you are too, and that you're following along with all the previews, because today we've got Group C: Netherlands, Austria, Ukraine, and North Macedonia. In this video, we're going to have team-by-team previews that include their squads, potential lineups, history in the competition, predictions, anything you could want to know about the team, I will have it. So you can check out the timestamps in this video if you want to skip forward to a specific team, but I'd love it if you stayed around for the whole thing. Before we get into it, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. We are on that road to 500 subs. We're creeping closer every single day, so help me reach that goal. And we might just have a giveaway at 500 subs if you can help me do that. And be sure to smash that like button before we even get started, because as all my subscribers will tell you, that is what we do on this channel. And before I forget, be sure to comment below how you think Group C will finish. I want to know your rankings 1 to 4. You can do it at the end of the video, but I have a feeling you might just copy what I say. So tell me right now how you think this will finish, and then watch the video and see if it matches up. With all that being said, let's get into the video. So we will start, as always, by taking a little look at the map of this group. The two host cities are Amsterdam and Bucharest, pretty spread out as far as the European continent is concerned. Bucharest is closest for North Macedonia and for Ukraine. Amsterdam, of course, will be home for the Netherlands. And the only interesting note that I have about the geography of this group is that Netherlands will actually get all 3 of their group stage games in Amsterdam at home. That is not true of most of these teams. I don't know why it's the case for Group C, but it is. So that will certainly be an advantage for Netherlands. Not that they really needed one in this group. And we will start by talking about those very same Dutch boys. Now, Netherlands, they're a little bit of an enigma. I mean, they missed the last World Cup. They missed the last Euros. This is their first major tournament since 2012, despite the fact that for the majority of that time, they've had a very talented roster and plenty of good players. It seemed like they were starting to kind of put some things together, going on a little run. They did pretty well in qualifying. Ronald Koeman had the team working well together and made some good selections. But with Ronald Koeman heading off to Barcelona, their captain, and in my opinion, their best player in Van Dijk, obviously going down with injury, and then them replacing Koeman with Frank de Boer, the wheels just seem like they're wobbling a little bit for Netherlands. They haven't fallen off. They could be resecured, and Netherlands could do very well here, but it does feel a lot less certain than it did even if this competition had actually taken place in 2020. I feel like they went from being potentially in the main category of contenders into maybe like the second tier of contenders. Looking at the team sheet, the strength of this team is just absolutely going to be in the midfield. You can see the 3 players that I listed: Frenkie de Jong, Jorginho Wijnaldum, and Donny van de Beek. De Jong and Wijnaldum are pretty much locks. I mean, de Jong is obviously that more defensive midfielder. He's had a great season for Barcelona. He's even had to play center back for them, but he will be back in his regular position for Netherlands. And then Gini Wijnaldum just turns into a completely different player. You know, he has the full freedom to express himself. He's truly a number 10 with this team, which he does not get to do with Liverpool. But whoever you put next to them as the third midfielder, I mean, it could be Van de Beek. It could be Davy Klaassen, who played pretty well for Ajax this season. It could be another Ajax man, Ryan Gravenberch, who's a young player that a lot of people are very excited about, myself included. Martin de Roon as well, who plays for Atalanta, a more defensive-minded player. They've got a lot of starting quality midfielders, and they're definitely at no shortage there. They also have a good amount of forwards, but they don't always quite fit together perfectly, and there's no go-to striker in this team. Sometimes Memphis plays there, sometimes Daniel Malen plays there. I put Wout Weghorst in my lineup because he had a brilliant season for Wolfsburg this year. He had 20 goals and 8 assists in the Bundesliga, which, you know, if Erling Haaland and Robert Lewandowski were around, you know, that could potentially be golden boot material. So I personally think he should play up top and just leave Memphis on the left wing, which is somewhere he still plays a lot for Netherlands. At the back, there are a few more questions. Netherlands do have some good center back options, even with Van Dijk out. I think De Ligt is pretty much a lock in the lineup. And then that second center back spot could be De Vrij, could be Ake, could be Daley Blind. It really kind of changes with the wind as far as Frank de Boer is concerned. But one of the really surprising squad omissions was Sven Botman from Lille. He had a amazing season with the title winners from France, and then he got completely left out of this squad, which I know they have a lot of center backs, but to me, that's a really weird decision. Like, at least bring him and get him some international experience, even if you don't plan on making him a starter. But to me, he could be in competition for that starting spot as well, and he didn't even get brought. Also, Tim Krul in goal, I mean, he's good at penalties, but everything else besides that, I don't really think he's a very good goalkeeper. And you guys know me. If you watch this channel a lot, I was a goalkeeper back in the day. I take a lot of pride in breaking down goalkeepers and knowing a lot about goalkeepers. Tim Krul, trust me, not the one you want. If it's a penalty shootout, he's among the first on your list. But I don't really think Netherlands are going to be making it to many penalty shootouts in this tournament. Spoiler alert. And you won't hear me talk about managers too much in these videos, but Frank de Boer is definitely an exception. I mean, this dude is like generally one of the worst managers to ever exist. He lasted about 4 days at Crystal Palace and the same at Inter Milan. He was part of the downfall of Atlanta United. And somehow he just keeps lucking into these incredible jobs like the Netherlands manager. So I don't know how he got here, but he will hold back this team. I can promise you that. So my verdict is that this team feels destined to be very similar to a lot of the recent Netherlands teams. They're talented, but in the end, they're very disappointing. I think they have the quality to finish top of this group, but I don't really expect Frank de Boer to be able to put it all together and take the right lineups and the right formations and pick the right striker and the right center backs to have this team actually make a run in the knockout stages, and I think they will get knocked out early. So I talked about Netherlands not really being involved too much in the past couple international tournaments, but this is where the inexperience of the group really starts to show. Austria is in its third appearance ever in the Euros. Ukraine are in the exact same boat, and then North Macedonia are making their debut. So when we look at Austria, they're pretty fresh on the international stage. They've never made it out of the group stages either in either of those two appearances, but this is their most talented roster, and I think this will definitely be their best chance to actually make waves at a big international tournament. Add to the fact that this group really is pretty wide open, and you could even see the top team in Netherlands falter a little bit. I think Austria are really going to like their chances. When you look at the squad, I mean, outside of some of the really small countries or teams like Russia, this is one of the most one-nation squads that you will ever see. 20 out of the 23 outfield players play in the Bundesliga. So they're all very familiar with each other. They're all playing at a high level week in and week out. And I think that should actually bring a lot to this team. And they're going to have as much club level experience at a high level as any team that they come up against in this tournament. The main men for this team are David Alaba and Marcel Sabitzer. They both end up playing different positions for Austria than they do for their clubs. We know Alaba as a left back most of the time for Bayern. He's even moved into center back a lot recently, but he can play defensive midfielder. He can play left wing. He can play attacking midfielder. The dude is actually a baller. If you've never seen him play for Austria, like, he can genuinely play anywhere on the pitch. He can take free kicks. He can score goals. He can really do it all. And then Sabitzer, who we're used to seeing as a much more box-to-box midfielder with RB Leipzig, he basically plays as a second striker in this team. I mean, he literally has the number 9 shirt. And so he is allowed to get up the field a lot more, take a lot more shots, and he's one of the main offensive threats as well. The most notable player who does not come from the Bundesliga is the bad boy himself, Arnautovic up top. Certainly Premier League viewers will remember him from West Ham, and he's been playing the last few years in China, and he hasn't gotten a lot of call-ups with Austria throughout their qualifying and stuff. He hasn't played a whole lot of games. So I'm very curious what his form will be like. But when he is on, he's great. He's a complete bully up top, and he's got a rocket on his right foot. So definitely a player to keep an eye on. And I think if Austria are going to succeed, they're going to need the best out of Arnautovic up top. Honestly, their two best center mids are probably Alaba and Sabitzer, but they need them to play other roles in this team. And so it makes for an awkward team selection. They've got plenty of kind of mid-level Bundesliga midfielders hanging around. One of my favorite facts about this team is that they have someone called Baumgartner and they have someone called Baumgartlinger, which kind of sounds like a Pokemon evolution. But neither of them are really outstanding, and they just don't have those players who can get on the ball and control a game from the midfield, which I think is one of the reasons that they've struggled in international tournaments before. And I would see them struggling if they did advance to the knockout stages. So the final verdict, I think this team could surprise a lot of people. I mean, they went undefeated in their Nations League groups. So obviously that was impressive. And So the final verdict here is that I think this team could surprise a lot of people. I mean, the main question mark is just going to be if they can find a consistent lineup that gets the best out of their best players, then it could look very good for Austria. I mean, genuinely, I think this group is wide open. Like, I could see Austria finishing anywhere from first to third in the group and therefore being in much different positions heading into the knockout stages. But I think that no matter where they finish, they will make that knockout stage. And even if they finish third, they could escape the group stage for the first time in their history at the Euros. Now, Ukraine is one of the most inconsistent teams that I found doing my research on the Euros. I really don't know what to expect out of them. As you can see, they went undefeated in their Nations League group, which was the qualifying for this Euro tournament. However, that took place in 2019, and they finished ahead of Portugal in their group. I mean, they had some great results. But then if you look at the past calendar year leading up to the Euros, they've only won 2 out of their 12 games after that undefeated run. So it's very hard to know what to expect out of this team heading into the tournament. Another reason that they're hard to evaluate is that the majority of their players play in Ukraine. Most of them play either for Dynamo Kiev or Shakhtar Donetsk, which are 2 very quality teams. I mean, we see them in the Champions League and the Europa League every season. But outside of that, I mean, I'd be lying if I said I knew much about many of these players. Some of the players you might know, though, are Malinovsky from Atalanta, Yarmolenko, of course, from West Ham, although he's getting on the older side, and Alexander Zinchenko from Manchester City. Now, if you only watch Manchester City in the Premier League, what you might not know is that Zinchenko plays center mid for this team. He's a number 8. He actually gets forward a lot, and he's one of the main creative forces for the team in Ukraine. And a cool little piece of history for him, he became the youngest ever captain of the Ukrainian side during the last set of World Cup qualifiers. So he's really an important piece of this team, and if he can drive them forward, it will definitely help their chances in this group. Another player to keep an eye on is Yaremchuk, their striker. He had a pretty prolific season for Ghent in the Belgian league. He scored 17 goals and had 6 assists in 28 games, so he's definitely a bagsman up top, and as I've said a few times throughout these previews, having a star striker is very important in these international tournaments. And speaking of star Ukrainian strikers, the man on the touchline is none other than Andriy Shevchenko. So they have been a revitalized national team under his leadership. And, I'm sure he's passed some of those lessons on from his playing days onto Yaremchuk. And so while there is some concern about the recent form, my verdict on this Ukraine team isn't really too affected by that, because the reality is I have a lot of questions about Netherlands and I have a lot of questions about Austria as well. So we really don't know how this group is going to go. I mean, if Ukraine play like they did in 2019, they can finish first pretty easily. And if they go by their recent form and the other 2 teams show up, they could even get overtaken by North Macedonia. Who knows? But if I had to put my money on it, I think they either finish second or third. And like I said with Austria, whoever finishes third, I think will still have enough to qualify for the knockouts. And so I think Andriy Shevchenko will only continue to raise his legend in Ukraine by qualifying this team for the knockouts for the first time in their history. We'll round up Group C by talking about North Macedonia. They are the other debutantes in this tournament besides Finland after their playoff successes against Kosovo and Georgia. They also made headlines recently by defeating Germany in what was definitely their most famous victory as a team. Their qualification for this tournament is really the greatest moment in their country's footballing history. The Macedonians are led by 37-year-old number 10 Goran Pandev. If you've been around, you will remember Pandev potentially from his Inter Milan days. He's played for a number of teams in Serie A. He used to play for Lazio as well, and he's been with Genoa the past couple of seasons. But don't let the age fool you, man. I mean, this guy's still got a lot of tricks up his sleeve. I remember watching some of their World Cup qualifier games, and he just has those old man moves. He's got the craftiness and the experience, and he still has a lot left in him as a number 10. He can score goals, he can set them up as well. He will be playing up top. They run a pretty basic 5-3-2 formation, but they also have quite a lot of quality in the midfield area as well. They have Bardi, who plays in La Liga for Levante. They have Elmas, who plays for Napoli. And they have Ademi, who's one of Zagreb's better players. They, of course, beat Tottenham in the Europa League this season. And then the other area of strength for Macedonia is the wingbacks. They have Alioski from Leeds and Ristovski, who also plays for Zagreb. He used to play for Sporting Lisbon. You may have seen him there for a couple of games. But those 2 are really fast. They can offer a lot going forward. And so a lot of the good things that happen tend to be from those two getting forward, finding Pandev in the area, and making something happen. However, the unfortunate part of it is that they don't often get opportunities to go forward. This is a team that is often on the back foot with their 5-back formation and kind of just clinging on for dear life without a lot of outlets. So I wouldn't expect them to be favorites in any game. I mean, genuinely, with this North Macedonia team, even if they get a single draw in any of the group games against any of these other teams, it would be a result that would be remembered for a lifetime in this small Balkan nation. So I will be rooting for them. You should be too, but I wouldn't expect a whole lot other than to probably finish 4th in this group. So that's going to be all for this Group C preview. If you didn't already, be sure to leave me your predictions for Group C in the comments. I want to know how you think it'll finish 1 through 4. This really is one of the most open groups in the Euros, so I'm curious who you guys think might make a run. Or is Netherlands just going to be that good? But do that. Smash the like on the video if you didn't already, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. And make sure you got those post notifications on, because we are not stopping here. We still got D, E, and F to go before the Euros kick off. So you want to be around and you don't want to miss those videos. And for Christ's sake, I'll say it one last time. Hit the damn like button, because I came up with predicted lineup for North Macedonia and Ukraine. If that is not worth a like, I don't know what is. Anyway, I will catch y'all in the next video. Peace.